Thank you for joining me. I'm really excited for this next event, How to Pitch with Bernie Sue. For those of you who don't know, thank you. For those of you who don't know, Stareable Fest is the premier annual indie TV and web series festival in the US, the new home for digital creative talent in the TV industry. We honor the year's best content and provide a space for the next generation of creators to connect with industry executives, grow their network, learn new skills, and build community. Stareable Fest is presented by Dell Technologies with NVIDIA and Intel, making workstation and monitor solutions purpose-built for creators like you. Stareable Fest LA is held in partnership with XRM Media Studios, which is the incredible venue we're currently in. Yes, thank you. So, Bernie Sue, our next guest. He is a 3-time Primetime Emmy Award-winning interactive creator and showrunner. His most decorated works include Artificial, the Twitch original live interactive science fiction series, which ran for 4 seasons, Emma Approved, the multi-platform YouTube adaptation of Jane Austen's Emma, and the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, the groundbreaking transmedia YouTube series. Throughout his career, he has also produced series for PBS Digital Studios, Maybelline, Chispa, and the Young Turks, along with selling projects into development at ABC, YouTube Premium, Sony Crackle, and MTV. Bernie is currently the creative content officer of MetaTheory, an interactive franchise studio utilizing Web3 and crypto technology to build immersive story worlds that expand across interactive shows to play and earn video games. And he's actually going to be talking about that tomorrow at our NFT panel. And now, please join me in welcoming Bernie Sue.
Got it? Okay, cool. All right. When Ajay asked me to do a presentation on how to pitch, I was thinking how to approach this from a very educational, granular point of view. So I want to set some kind of ground rules here. Number one, there's a pitch contest happening literally on the stage in like 2 hours. That's a 90-second pitch. This is not that, okay? So if you're here to, maybe you can use some pointers, but what this is for those meetings that you have with network streamers, producers, and studios that you have their full attention for 30 minutes, an hour. How to approach those meetings, that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to show you how I do it. Doesn't mean it's right. It means that I have had success with the way I do it. Feel free to take whatever tips you want. Feel free to say, go F yourself, Bernie. You don't know what you're talking about. That's okay. I don't mind. It's up to you. It's educational. I'm doing this for you guys. I'm going to really drill down to the thought process of how I look at things, how I think about it, and I'm a very methodical thinker as far as strategizing towards success versus simply just being passionate about the idea, which is important, of course. You have to be passionate about your idea, but I'm trying to drill down what it is besides versus telling a good story versus selling a pitch. Okay, so that's what we're going to focus on here. We're here to learn. We're here to converse. When we get to the Q&A part of this presentation, I'm an open book. You can ask me whatever you want, as long as it doesn't make someone come out for me as a lawsuit or something like that. But I'm happy to give you all the my tricks and tips as we go. Next slide, please. Okay, so as Ajay mentioned, what I've done. So I'm a writer, director, producer, showrunner. I've been doing web series since 2009. So I've been doing this probably longer than most people. I can't think of actually anybody who's been doing it as long as I have. So maybe I'm the longest, I don't know, right? I've probably done, I think, 15 of these web series classified. That would classify as web series, not short films, not movies, web series. Notable ones, as Ajay mentioned, Lizzie, Emma, Artificial, and Vanity, which I did for Maybelline and Style Hall. All 4 of them were recognized for Emmys, 3 of them won. But we're not talking about today, because we're talking about pitching. And so I've successfully sold pitches in development to Sony, MTV, YouTube, Twitch. Hilariously, in my bio, it mentions one that I didn't put up here, which was ABC, which is, I sold one to them too. And all of those are web series pitches. They were pitched as web series, and they were sold into development, sometimes as web series, sometimes as a TV show, sometimes as a movie hybrid web series. So these are all successful. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's get into the weeds a little bit. What are the goals of the pitch? And so if you were just ask someone off the street in Hollywood, they would say, "You want to sell your show," and that's true. Okay, but I think it's deeper than that. And by the way, feel free to take any shots of slides. I don't care. Okay, so number one, make the executive that's you're pitching to excited for your pitch. That's obvious. That's like, hey, I want your idea. Your idea's great. Let's do it. Okay. Number two, this is the one people actually kind of miss, which is make the exec excited about working with you. You as a team, you as a person, whatever you want to determine as you, they want to be excited about working with you. Why? Because they may not need your pitch. They may already have a show, movie like that. But if you get them excited about working with you, they're open to other pitches from you, right? You can sell them it tomorrow. You may sell them something literally 5 minutes later, which I've heard done. I haven't done that, but I've heard it done, okay? So accomplishing either is a win to me, okay? Either one by itself is a win. Ideally, of course, you do both, and then you still make the sale. But I want you to have that mindset when you look at what I'm showing you, and I encourage you to look at your pitches that way. If you accomplish one or the other, that's great. Because, them rejecting your pitch because they already have a cop show, they already have a vampire show, whatever it is, that's not your fault. But you can successfully pull off the second one by just you being good or excitable, whatever parameters that you want to say there, okay? Next slide, please. Okay, so then think about also what happens after you successfully pitch. So you've successfully either gotten the idea interested, the exec interested in the idea, or they've gotten them interested in you. They now have to sell you or the idea up to their boss. And then that boss then needs to sell you or the idea to their boss. So everybody in the company, producers, studio streamers that you need to say yes, all is putting their ass and your career on the line for you. Why I say this is because it's a bit of empathy here. You need to understand what they are thinking when they're talking to you. You, of course, want to just sell them your show. That's great. But in order for them to buy your show, I highly recommend that you think about what gets them to say yes. And this is where the empathy comes in. Think about stuff like this. Think about that every week, their team of development execs are going to come together and go, hey, what great pitches did you hear this week? And they need to basically pitch your pitch in that meeting and put their ass on the line and say hey, I heard this great pitch from this great creator, super unique voice, really awesome idea, and then get everybody else excited in that room. Go, yeah, we should get that one. Let's get that. And then next week they call your agent, and their agent sends you a deal, and then everybody's happy, right? That's that's that process in a nutshell. So keep that in mind as you pitch in the future. Next slide, please. All right, these are my guidelines going to a pitch. Now you do not have to follow these guidelines. But I follow these guidelines. This is me, okay? I assume, number one, they know nothing about me. I have 3 Emmys. I assume they know nothing about me. I assume they do not know I'm an Emmy-winning creator. I assume they do not know that I've been doing this for 15 years. I assume they do know nothing about me. Number 2, I assume they know nothing about the project I'm pitching. I may have sent them a deck, a trailer, multiple episodes, everything perfectly designed and everything like that. I assume they have not seen any of that because who knows, right? Even if the agent or you are sending it to them in advance, they have to click it open. Maybe they got too busy. Maybe they don't care. It doesn't mean it's malicious. Maybe, last night their kid was up late and they couldn't get a chance to prepare for the meeting. You don't know that, right? And so that's number 3. Assume that everything you've sent over in advance hasn't even been opened yet. You should assume that. I'm saying all this to you because this has all happened to me in the last couple years, okay? I have gone to meetings where I have sent all sorts of materials, and I've gone to them successfully where they have read every line and watched every video, and I've gone to them where they know absolutely nothing. They're like, oh, wait, so who are you? I'm Bernie, I do this project, let's pitch, right? So, thus, lowest common denominator, you should go in assuming this, and if they have, great, awesome. Makes your job easier, you can run through the pitch faster, you can get to the good stuff faster, but you should assume this because if you assume that they've done all this or they assume that they have read everything, done the research value, and they haven't, you're dead. That pitch is gone. It's a waste of their time. It's a waste of your time. It's just dead, right? So I highly recommend you keep this as a mindset as you go into your pitches. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to talk about one specific pitch, one of the successful ones. I'm going to walk through this in detail on how I did it, right? Now again, doesn't mean you have to copy what I did. I'm just showing it to you, and I'm showing you from notes literally pulled from my PC that only I see, right? So the project was called Socio. Just give me the parameters. Teen thriller web series, that was the pitch. It was a teen thriller like Veronica Mars, psychological thriller, okay? 2 11-minute episodes, that's what we produced. We did a 2-minute trailer, really awesome trailer, and we sold it to MTV. We did pitch it to those companies down there: HBO, Amazon, Netflix, TNT, YouTube Red, MTV, ABC Forum. So we did a whole, marketplace, I guess what they call it, of pitches there. So we pitched all of them. I will say, not claiming which one, highlighting which one it was. Of all those there, I would consider all of those meetings to be good except for one, meaning that I got all of them, I feel, excited to potentially work with me. They were happy with meeting with me. They just didn't buy the project because it was too whatever, the thing, right? One was just an absolute just bomb, absolute terrible. Was in and out of there in 15 minutes. It was like, done. Okay, so just letting you know that everything I'm telling you is from experience here. The great thing about this is that I thought about going into this and showing you this project. I was thinking to myself, you know what? I could show you the deck I made. I could show you the 2-minute trailer, but I'm not, because I'm going to assume that as a pitcher to a pitchee, that you know nothing, that you didn't open anything. So I'm going to show you what I have material-wise for me in a pitch. So, next slide. Okay, so I design my pitches in outline form. Right? This is for me, only for me as the pitcher. The exec does not see this, right? I'm just showing you this image to show you what this image is. Don't worry about that. That on the left there is what I'm talking about. I format my pitches into 6 points. Now, this is unique to this specific show. Okay, I generalized it vaguely because this is kind of a teen procedural teen procedural thriller. So there are elements here that have procedural elements in it, but I think in general, this kind of fits for almost 99% of pitches, this format. You don't have to copy my format. It's just there for you if you want to, okay? So, next slide. All right, so now for the next few slides, it's gonna get very texty and no images because I'm assuming they know nothing. They have not seen anything, they don't know who I am, and so forth. So, here's my intro. Again, for me and not them. There are typos on these, and I left them in there if they're there because of one thing. They were for me. This is on my notepad, on Notestock, on my MacBook, that I am sitting across from them, one chair to the next, and just glancing down and making sure I'm hitting my points, but telling them a story, telling them a pitch, okay? So that's why it's formatted all weird, and some things are gonna be bolded and some things aren't, because I'm just going, this is for me. I don't care, well, I care that you see this now, but when I made this thing, this wasn't for them. That's not the audience. This is for me to get through the pitch. So, how do I do my intro? Okay, this is how I like to do it very, very clearly. This story is about a 19-year-old teenage sociopath named Jordan, main character. She's fascinated with death. She aligns with a dubious detective. She uses social media to hunt dark personalities and serial killers online. And it's a coming-of-age story of a sociopath fitting into the world around her. That's the high level of the pitch. Now, why do I just say this is the intro? Because this right here is what I want that exec to take away as the fast pitch to their boss meetings, to their other meetings. What's the pitch about? I want them to hit this thing. What is the story about? The story about this. It's a story about this person that does this thing. It's obviously more than this, but just generating and boiling it down to very, very basic thoughts as an intro. Cool. Next slide, please. All right, so now let's talk about the main character. So now I spent a lot of time on the focal character. Okay? She was young, she displayed sociopathic tendencies, she was torturing animals, she was aware that people perceived her as normal, she hides in plain sight, getting below average grades. Notice how I'm not saying exactly what's on there. These are just points. I see them and I go, oh, I remember my point. I'm going to say it this way. I don't need to read it word for word. She's hyper-aware, incredibly well-adjusted to society. She's a genius. She's not a psychopath. She's incredibly curious in devilish ways. She'll wind people up to see what they do. But like many teenagers, she's more comfortable with virtual relationships and prefers to talk to people online than in real life. Okay, that's her in a nutshell. That's the character. You saw me kind of glance here. You might have saw me kind of come back to you. You're my audience. I glance, hit my point. I come back to you, tell a story, right? Try to do it with confidence. I may get the ums in. I may get the you-knows in. Okay, try to get those out of you, right? But that's the idea of focusing on what is a main character-driven story. Next slide, please. Okay, now I go to relationships. Okay, I'm going to kind of fly through this. I'm not trying to make you guys buy the show. But you see what I mean here. I walk through some of the primary relationships that you'll see in the show. She's got a mom. She's got a classmate who's got a big crush on her. She's got best friend. She's got a troubled friend. She's got a father figure, an assistant professor. And I kind of, again, I say these things. I say her best friend Melody. She's the bubbly, energetic girl who enables her to do crazy things, blah, blah, and kind of present character with drama at the same time is what I'm trying to do on each one of these points. And I throw a twist there at the end. I don't know if you can see it, because at the very bottom, this was a twist in the pitch, is that she actually catfishes and makes profiles of people that are friends. So her friend Melody's had actually been dead for years, and so it's like her in the show is like a figment, like a Sixth Sense type thing. So that was one of the pictures, one of the big hooks there. Okay. I will point out too that I have not paused for questions yet. I have run through the intro through this, and I'm still going. I'm still going in my pitch. So what I want in this moment, if it's me and the execs, across the table in a conference room, I think some of the meetings you guys have had in here have been like that. I want their full attention, and I'm not pausing it. I'm telling you the basics of this, right? Next slide, please. Then I go to the core relationship, the one I teased in the beginning, the dubious detective. The person she's most interested in, see I bolded that, Detective Chang, former Marine. He's a pragmatic detective who's outside the law for justice. So I'm framing why he's outside the law, why he's moral. He's not corrupt necessarily, but he's not a clean cop. This is before all the BLM stuff. This is years ago. So don't worry about the social semantics of it. Just look at the pitch and the story. Jordan forces a symbiotic partnership. I'm going to partner with you, detective. You're going to expose me to what I want, which is more shady serial killer people, because I want to know more about them. That's my curiosity. That's my passion. And I'm going to help you find them. I'm going to help you find these serial killers. That's the partnership. That's the hook of the story. It's a deal with the devil for the detective, because the detective is still a detective. He's not. And the problem is that she knows who he is. She knows that he's morally corrupt as well. So it's this weird relationship there. So that's the relationship of the two. And then you see in the bold right there, I actually literally write the word pause, because that's where I pause. So I pause here and I say, do you have any questions? All right? And 9 out of 10 times, I don't get questions here. I pause because I want to make sure that I still have their full attention. And usually, the response I get, if I'm doing good, is, no, keep going, you're doing great. And that's what you want, right? That's exactly what you want. You're doing great, keep going. Next slide, please. Okay, so now I go to the macro story, the big story. I wasn't sure how to frame this. It's just it's like a whole bunch of plot, is what I said. What's going to happen as plot? So you notice that I didn't cut the plot until here, right? I have given you a whole bunch of characters and relationships. I've given you how they relate to each other. And now, after letting you actually ask questions, is where I get the plot. Why do I do this? And again, you don't have to agree with this. This is the way I do it. I think character sells story and sells shows more than plot does. And I know the tendency for a lot of storytellers, I do this too, is to focus on plot first. So this is what was taught to me way back when I was pitching the show. Hey, get away from the plot first. Focus on character first. That's what's going to hook them. Then do plot. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do plot. I mean, I thought the plot was cool. It's about a teenage sociopath and a cop hunting serial killers. That's a cool plot. I didn't really get into the weeds of that until here, at this point, where I talk about the serial killers that they go start hunting in the pilot, which is what's happening in the first two lines, right? This girl puts herself into danger to force the detective to come and save her. And then I talk about the big serial killer, big bad of the season, the taxidermist killers, which is a duo, where it's a male-female duo serial killer relationship, which was to mirror the main characters of my show. So I kind of showcase that I've really thought out what the big narrative is as a kind of a path there. And then I go to, next slide, the other cases. So this is the area where I talk about things that, hey, these are the potential stories of the season. Maybe there's a plot where she convinces or she coaxes one of her friends into killing her bully, where she does all this crazy stuff. So again, these are just basic ideas. I'm not going to go into specifics here, but this is where I'm proving to them that I have great knowledge, whether I do or not, of what I think the season is going to be as I go forward and as we have the discussion. So you can go ahead and take a look at that. Again, remember, just to preface, all of this is on my notes doc, right? They're not reading this. I'm referencing this and then spewing out the good stuff to them as an orator, as a speaker, in this sense. So, next slide. Okay, so then I open up for questions, which I'm about to open up for questions from you. So this is the kind of thing what happens at the end. So at the end of that part, I go, great, I'm done. I'm hoping any questions. So you want them to ask lots of questions. You want them to. Now, they could be for bad reasons. they're really confused, which happens, right? But ideally, they're really interested in it. They're gonna ask you about, wait, so what happens when this character does this? What happens when this? That's good stuff. That's when you're ping-ponging. That's the conversation. But that doesn't happen until you finish the pitch. And you can't get to this unless you have a successful pitch that's hooked them and gotten them into the conversation. So I recommend, what does that mean? I recommend you go with the flow. Do they want materials? You're gonna ask, hey, so what about the materials that they saw or everything? You show them the trailer then? Sure, if they ask for it, they want to watch a 2-minute trailer right there in the meeting, and because they're really interested, show them the 2-minute trailer, right? Like you do it. That's what actually happened. I think it was Amazon. Yeah, I think so. The Amazon pitch. This doesn't get anybody in trouble. So the Amazon pitch for this show, what happened was I went in. They had not seen anything in advance. They just put the meeting on the books, and they said someone told them that they should meet with me and hear this pitch. I pitched with it. They apparently really liked it. Then they asked us to do the trailer right then and there. They could have easily watched the trailer beforehand. They had it in their email inbox. They just didn't. And I showed the trailer then. They were really excited about it, and they ultimately didn't buy it because Amazon's not into teen dramas at the time. And so at the end of it, I consider that Amazon pitch to be a success because they were really excited to potentially hear the pitches from me. They were really impressed by the way I presented myself. They really liked the idea. This wasn't for them. And so it's to find this balance of what I think you should do as a whole, which is having a strong vision, yet being someone who they can work with. Because people, especially these day and age, people don't like working with assholes anymore. Not that they ever did, but it's really the thing now. So they'd rather just work with people that they really want to work with. And that's kind of goes back to the first point of getting people excited to work with you. So with that, and before we get into questions, now I will show you the trailer of it. So Jeff, go ahead and play the video. Thank you. All right, I'm going to open up the questions for you now. Anybody? Yes, go ahead. Front row.
Why the decision to pitch that as a web series and not a full-size drama?
Well, we pitched it as a drama,
right.
And it was bought. MTV bought it as a drama, so I did end up having to write an hour pilot for it. So my partners in that project, a company that's not existing anymore, called Astronauts Wanted, back in that era, which is the 2015-16 era, there were a lot of companies that were just doing web series, and so they had this thought of, hey, we want to do a teen serial killer story, sociopathic story, and they asked me to build something for them. We built it together. They commissioned the trailer web series as a 2-parter, and with the idea of upselling it to a platform, whether as a web series or not. This is back in the era where there were a lot of web series buyers. There was a full screen that was buying 50-minute episodes, which they actually did buy this at one point. Long story there. And a lot of small networks, a lot of the YouTube platforms, channels were buying web series then, so that was the strategy. But ultimately, it did sell as a TV show, so specifically, it was developed as a web series. I had written a full hour pilot version and chopped it into 4 pieces and gave it episodic moments. Shot the first 2 of those episodes, the 2 11s, cut the trailer you saw, and that's what we went on with, and that's what ultimately they bought. Yes?
In terms of production of the 2 11-minute episodes and the 2-minute trailer, a lot of time, it's very sophisticated and it looks like quality production, like it's pretty expensive. Do you have any tips before you get it greenlit as far as funding, if you did a Kickstarter or how you went about that?
So the question is how to get the funding for shoot the material? Is kind of the question? I'm trying to understand.
For the pitching material only.
Yeah, okay, sure. Well, I will say that, the commissioning of let's shoot 2 episodes of the web series, I actually strategically didn't agree with that. Because I didn't think I thought we could sell it on the trailer, which is what we did, right? So the idea that we needed to produce half an hour of content at that production level didn't make that much business sense to me. As the director and the creator of the show, I didn't say no to the money. It's just like they wanted to do it, so I was like, yeah, sure, okay. But I mean, you could throw, a quarter of this at this, and we could just do the trailer and have, half the scenes and be just fine. But how to raise, I mean, it's a chicken and egg thing. It's like at that time, sorry, woe is me, I was a 2-time Emmy winner at the time, so it's like they were ready to take a shot at that. But it's like like this is going back to like being a good person to work with. I was ready to have the conversations like, hey, we don't need to shoot 20 minutes. We could shoot 5 minutes and be fine. So it's kind of that finding that balance of partnerships. Going back to your question though, the raising money thing. I mean, you got to find ways to do it with as low as possible, especially when you're starting out. Like I understand that. I've done it, and Kickstarter is a way. I mean, you want to come to the NFT talk tomorrow? That is potentially a way. I'm not saying it is. Also not saying it isn't. But slight preview. Lots of money in NFTs doesn't mean it's just there for you. Just that's the high low of that conversation. But yeah, I think if whatever project you're trying to do, what anybody else you're trying to do, you go for the trailer. If you're trying to sell the TV, I don't think you necessarily need to do the series unless you feel like you need to do the series to understand what the series is, which I understand. Or you just want to tell a good story, which I also understand. But Socio would have sold on the trailer. It did sell on the trailer, to be fair. I don't think MTV actually saw the first 2 episodes in its entirety. I think they just saw the trailer and just bought it. So we would have gotten relatively the same result. Yes, go ahead.
Do you like hand out any printed materials or anything like during the meeting or even after to the executives, or is it all like afterwards or before the meeting?
The question was, do I hand out any printed materials? Do I Don Draper it and go like, lucky strike. Anyway, I don't. I know people who do it, and it's a choice. Like I appreciate the theatricality of flipping a card over and it's like the thing. So that's part of the showmanship. But I haven't done that, and I know a lot of people just go in with a piece of paper and pitch the idea and just rock it. And then if you want to send materials later, they'll look at it. I mean, if they're interested, they're interested. If they're not going to buy it anyway because they don't need teen serial killer shows, then they're not going to look at it. I mean, that's not going to matter, right? So it's up to you. I encourage theatricality, though, personally. I am not an executive. Yes, we're going this way. We'll go across. Go ahead.
Awesome. How did you get your first pitch meeting ever? Like, beginning of your career, you're like us, and how did it go for you?
How did I get my first pitch meeting ever?
Yeah.
I'm going to say, how did I get my first successful pitch meeting ever? Is that better?
Sure.
All right. Okay. So, because a pitch meeting could just be, I know there's there's one with, if you meet a Netflix executive in an elevator, and that's is that a pitch meeting? Is that a successful, whatever. So, 2009, I made a web series. If you're really curious about it, it's called Compulsions, like the emotion, Compulsions. It's on YouTube. You can find it. It's still there. It's the production value, I think, personal opinion, I think it holds up pretty well. You can make your own judgment. If you don't think it holds up, that's cool. So that series, independent, self-funded through clawing, like you guys, like you mentioned, it's like, hey, can you donate some money here? Can you get in? And then favors, people got paid either very little or didn't. Just calling an egg an egg, right? And that series won a few awards. It was very well received. Then some agents saw it, some execs saw it, and that led to a pitch at Sony Crackle. And it was not about that show. It was, hey, here's the creator who did that show that won some awards, that's really well produced. What else have they got? And I went in and I pitched. Now, this one I had materials, and it was not like the Socio pitch where it was just mano and mano talking for 30 minutes. It was, hey, here's a thing about, it was a pre-sent thing about it's a web series about a Mars mission before Martian. It's pre-Martian. And Martian does a lot of things better than we did, by the way. But it was a 10-part web series that was kind of like a movie. Like it would be 100 minutes, and it could be a movie, and it could be a 10-part web series. And I designed the web series, and they bought it. And that's what the Sony one is. So that was it. So if you're following my lead, it is, and I think a lot of you in this room have done this, make a web series, right? Like here at the Web Series Festival here. It's also one of the reasons why I'm so adamant. Ajay was and I were talking earlier. Like I've spoken at all of these Stareable Fest, and I'm happy to do it because that's kind of where I started, right? I started like you guys. I'm a web series creator. I still am. I started as a web series creator, and that's that process. So it does the body of work does mean a lot, and this may not be it, the one you're done right now, but it can be. Who knows? Someone's got to win the festival, right? And a lot of people in the festival, from my understanding, are meeting with peeps, right? So awesome. But yes, next question. Yes, in the middle.
Did you ever find it a detriment to have a trailer for your project, as in you gave up too much visual information and they're like, well, what do you need us for? Because sometimes studios may want to be a part of, on the ground floor, developing all of those elements.
Yeah. I think it's a concern. With the Socio one, with the 2 11-minute episodes, there was a concern by some buyers that like, hey, do we have to repay? If we want to redo it, right? Do we have to pay for the production of these 2 episodes already, which was a good chunk of money. So yeah, that's true. Okay, that's a possibility. I think if you do a trailer and it's economical and everything, and you have a vision, you have to convey early on. You don't have to say it in literally these words. You have to convey on. It's like, hey, this is just the idea. Like I want to work with you. It's like so. Let's just say, using Socio example, if they go like, what if we make the cop a black guy or whatever? I'm just throwing out. That's a whole different thing. But like you have to be open with that discussion. And if you're against it, you should have a non-combative, thought-out response to why that shouldn't be. I'll period that moment by saying a violent black cop is very different than a violent Asian cop in society. So that's what I mean by that. Being open to working with people is the key to that. So doing the trailer and projecting that you're open to development, working with the people, the buyer, the streamer, the producer, whatever, that's a big thing. She's not here, but one of your actual attendees, who I know, who has a series here, she was asking me about a project, and she was like adamant that she was in it if it were to sell, and that was the goal. And I'm sure there's some actors in this room who have that literal thought in their mind, and I go, hey, I respect that it's your passion project, it's you or nothing, but that is a blocker, theoretically. Like, they may like you, they may like the project, they may like the idea, but they really want to get Anne Hathaway instead. That's the condition of the sale. That's a question you ask yourself, right? Do you want the sale, and then jump to something else potentially, or do you ride or die with you? That's on you. Yeah. And someone, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. You mentioned obviously it's a good thing when they're following up with questions and so forth. Do you
Yes.
have a set kind of ratio that you use of like, because obviously you're given different time frames when you go into pitch. So they might say we've got a half-hour window for you. Would you prefer to go? Therefore, I'd make sure that there was like a 20-minute approximate pitch, allowing for 10 minutes of questions. And if it's an hour-long kind of window that they've given you, would you go, cool, I want to make this run for 40 minutes of presentation and 20 minutes? Do you have a guideline if they give you a time frame?
I'll say that you absolutely need to have time for questions.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of the reverse of that. So 10, 15 minutes in a half hour. I mean, yeah, half-hour meetings are tough because it's not really half hour. It takes time to get in, right? So that's tricky. But if that's what they give you, that's what they give you. That's the arena. Play or win. Win or lose, right? So you have to carve in that question time. So if you're given a half hour, I'm like, this pitch lasts 20 minutes max. 10 minutes of questions. I mean, I think when I did Socio, the pitching part, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, because I want to get into the questions. I want them to ask me the stuff, right? And also not just because I want to get the sale. I also want to get better and anticipate other questions. So I'll give you the story here. So Socio, you saw HBO, Amazon, Netflix, blah, blah, listed on there. So the HBO pitch was first. Then the agents had set up the pitches, HBO, blah, 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 right? And when the HBO was first, I'm like, great, HBO is first, because I know they're not going to buy the show. There's no way they'd buy a teen show. This isn't ABC Family. This isn't MTV. Like, that's who's going to buy the show. Someone's going to buy the show. So I knew HBO was probably going to be a no, right, going into that already. So I let's practice. Let's go in and practice. Let's go in and I mean, I don't know how to be HBO. Let's meet some execs at HBO. Let's impress some execs at HBO. That's the mindset going into that one. I'm very confident that they're not going to buy this show. They may surprise me and do it, but that was the mindset. And so in that sense, I'm trying to get the relationship, right? Yeah, it's probably a better way to say it. You want to get the relationship. If you can't sell the show, get the relationship. And then you can use that relationship later, pitch other things. That exec gets promoted, right? That exec moves to another company. Go with them. Hey, good relationship. Hey, Bernie pitches really well. I got some good ideas. You should come pitch. so forth. So yeah, that's happened. I mean, like there was a executive at YouTube that I told something to, and he went to Netflix and he's like, yeah, if you have any YA things, you should come in and you should pitch. I'm like, okay, cool, right? It's like that's what you want. That's how you build your relationships and your network as you mature in the industry. Yes, I'll come back to you. Yes.
It's not so easy for creators of our size to even get in touch with the big streamers like Netflix or HBO. Do you have any tips what to do or what not to do?
The question was, it's really tough for creators of your size, so you newer creators, okay, to get in touch with the big streamers, Netflix, HBOs, and so forth. What are the tips? I mean, little shill. I think winning festivals and winning awards is good. There's some great networks here. AMC, right, is here, right? Like so, like you may not get to Netflix, but AMC get to Netflix, no problem. You form that relationship. like boom, there you go, right? And they love you, and they think you're by selling you to Netflix, they get a win. You win, they win, Netflix wins. Hey, everybody wins, right? So that's what you're building here. You're building that relationship. Like right now, I mean, I say this as someone who knows agents, not technically represented, knows execs at different companies. Like, sure, I can try to play a card and like, hey, I want to pitch to Amazon. Hey, I want to pitch to Netflix. I'm saying these names that I in my head like who I would call. Okay, now, but I've built this over 10 years, right? And multiple successes and working with lots of people over the industry. Like, hey, do you know someone at so and so? So you want to start building that now. And here at the opportunities with the meetings, especially that they do here, from my understanding. Again, I'm not there. I'm not with you guys in the meeting. That's like, yeah, that's how I would do it. Like, I would try to form those relationships with these companies and be like, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't like your idea as an executive. I as the executive of whatever company, but I really like you. We should stay in touch. And then down the road, something cool happens down the road. Wait, I'm gonna get to you, and then I'll get to you. All right? Go ahead.
Now I have two questions.
Two questions.
The first one, do you think that you need
Two
to
questions.
be in LA to like cultivate these relationships with these potential partners that you're talking about?
Okay, so the first question is, do you need to be in LA to cultivate these relationships that I'm talking about? I would have said 2 years ago, 3 years ago, absolutely. But today, I don't know, because of the pandemic, right? The company I'm working with now, it's completely virtual. Like, everybody is across the world. There are people in Taiwan, there are people in Chicago, there are people in Texas, there are people all over the place. Philippines, like it's like, and I feel I have relationships with lots of people there. And so I think now in a kind of work from home world, I don't think it's necessary. Now, I do think that you need, when you are in LA, like you are now, you should, and hopefully if you're not in LA, I'm assuming you're not because you're asking the question, but look, when you come back, you be very, very methodical about that time, right? I'm in LA for 4 days. It covers 2 weekday days and 2 weekend days. What can I fire off? Like, who can I talk to? Who can I meet with? And some of them, you can't. And not every meeting is going to be a success. Not every meeting is going to lead to another meeting. But you need to be really, really aggressive but polite about those things. So that's how I'd recommend it. That feeling that like you can be in LA at a moment's notice is what you want to present, even if you're not in LA, right? So it's like if let's say I'm an agent and I love your project, and I suddenly randomly talk to an exec over at Amazon, and I go, dude, I got you a pitch meeting 3 days from now at Amazon. Now maybe you do the pitch virtually now, right? To be fair, but they have to feel like that you can just show up, right? Whether you're here or not. And your second question?
Okay, second question.
For the trailer?
Did you use the 2 episodes content for the trailer, or did you develop specifically for a trailer?
We used the 2 episodes of content for the trailer. Yes. So the trailer is way better because we shot 2 episodes of content. My point opening with the question that was here about the trailer versus the episodes, one of you guys, was that I think we could have spent a quarter of the total money and had 80% of the quality of the trailer and gotten to the same result. So, yes. Your question. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm developing a feature film. So my goal is to make this feature. I have a limited budget that I can shoot something. I can either shoot one scene from the feature, or I can shoot a standalone web series that's got nothing to do with the feature.
To make the feature, you're talking about scene, one scene,
Yeah, one scene. 'Cause
versus an episode of a web series.
No, like either I can do a web series, it's just a standalone thing.
Sure.
Or I can shoot just one scene from the film that really gives you a feel of the film.
I mean, just hearing the one scene out of context of what that scene specifically does, and don't give me the context, that's not going to work. So, I mean, that has to be like a really like iconically special. I don't even know what that is. An example of a scene from a movie, like a big Hollywood movie. I guess it's like the 3 Spider-Man scene in Spider-Man. Like, okay, I get it. Let's do it. Right.
I mean, like a meet cute. Let's say you filmed a really great meet cute that captures. Here's the shooting style. Here's the character types. Here's the.
Yeah, I mean, the character type. That's important. The motion, that's important. The shooting style is important. I think the web series would be better. Okay. And I actually don't necessarily need to go all the way to the web series. Web series could be, and a lot of you have web series here, right? They're like multiple episodes. They're like 4 or 5 minutes each, 10 minutes each, 20 minutes each, whatever it is, right? It's like, again, I would suggest if you're just trying to get the film, like you shoot the mock trailer or something like that has moments of your meet cute and other cool things that are there. Like you really showcase the vision. There's also the version of this where what they call a rip sizzle, a rip trailer, meaning that you like pull footage from romantic comedies and scenes to do this, and you can do that too. I've seen that be successful. I have not personally had success with that. I've tried doing rip trailers twice, didn't sell them. That's okay, but I know people do that as well. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, down here again.
What would you change with your approach for Zoom meetings? And would you show any material up as like a shared screen when you're pitching?
Oh man, Zoom meetings. I say this as someone who works in a remote company, like all day. And it's tough. It's tough. I tell you, it's like this presentation. Let's assume that you actually like what I did here for a second. Just humor me. This is way better in this experience than it would be as a Zoom like webinar, right? Okay, so a pitch. I mean, you have all these things that can go wrong, like bad connections and like drop bars and stuff, and that's really tricky. I think the good thing about it with the Zoom thing is that you can actually share screen a presentation much better and kind of walk through it that way better. I don't know. I haven't done enough Zoom pitching to really give you a good answer there. I just tell you, like, if you said, hey, Bernie, you gotta pitch the next version of Socio to Amazon tomorrow as a webinar, as a Zoom pitch. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do a keynote presentation like I did here. Images, slides, hit my points, transitions. Transitions, I mean vocal transitions, not animation transitions, and do it that way. But you're missing a lot of things. You're missing the eye-to-eye contact. Do I still have them in my pitch? I don't know because I can't see them, right? And I'm not giving them direct eye contact because if I'm looking at the screen, they know that. Look at the camera, it's kind of weird. I don't know if they're looking at me. Like it's weird. That's hard. I don't know. Sorry for the non-answer, but yeah, that sucks. Yeah, you in the back.
Is there any projects you're working on right now?
So we finished the last season of Artificial, season 4. Shot here, actually, in this building. Yeah. Some scenes shot on, this space, not literally the stage. So that finished last year. I'm working on an NFT Web3 project. So what I mean by that, I'll talk about it more tomorrow during the panel, but it's like, the career I've had, this is a little heady, is that I've done all these individual shows, and gone through. I'm grateful for it. I'm not complaining. I've done all these individual shows, had success from some of them were not successful, okay? And I kind of had this kind of thought, like, what do I want to accomplish next? It's like, does winning Emmys really matter? Does winning a 4th Emmy really change having 3? Like, okay. So I was like, what do I do as a storyteller? And so I decided that I wanted to go into franchise development. So instead of building just one show on one medium, I wanted to build like a Star Wars across multiple mediums, where it's like a movie and a TV show and a comic book and a video game, and trying to start building that from the ground up. So that's what I'm doing in the NFT Web3 world. And if you know the right people in that area, there's a lot of money there, a lot of resources there. Doesn't mean you can do it for filmmaking. That's a whole different story. But that's what I'm working on. Yes, you right? Yeah.
Yeah, I just wondered, what your go-to kind of follow-up is post pitch meeting.
If I don't know the person personally, because like an agent set it up, okay, the agent has to do that. Like, and the agent, if they're good or like competent, really, is that once you do your pitches, they will wrap everything, get all the feedback, and come back to you. Hey, this group passed because of this. They really liked you. Whether that's bullshit or not, you don't know. Like maybe they're being polite, right? And they'll come back to you that way. And so they'll do that. Now, if you know the person and you form the relationship, right? You form the relationship, you should follow up. Not immediately, and you should follow up very cordially. You should follow up with like the next day thing of like, hey, it was great to see you. Hope you liked it. Let me know if you have any questions. You need more materials. Happy to jump on the phone. Like open to more discussion, okay? Not forcing a decision, because you got to understand that person probably needs to wait for their weekly or monthly meeting before they can get the okay from their bosses to say yes to you, okay? Now, 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks go by, follow up again. Hey, just want to let you know if you have any news on this. You know, great working with you. If you need something else, happy to do it, right? So that's what I would do. But if someone else has set the meeting up for you, you need to go through the person who set up the meeting, even if it's a friend, right? Because that's their relationship. It's not your relationship. Yet, at least. So I'll give you a quick story. I'll come back to you. We pitched Artificial, the 4-season running show, shot here, before we shot here, as a TV show. And hilariously, there were pitches where my co-creator was going in. I should have told him this, and this is the lesson I learned, where we had all this material. We had like an 8-page Bible. The show existed, right? Like show literally existed already, and we're pitching it to TV networks and so forth. And there are people who had looked at nothing, and he went in and it completely threw him off. He's like, he would start talking about the show in a very heady, philosophical way of like the themes of the show, and I'd be like, you don't know anything. They clearly haven't read anything, and you need to kind of pivot your thought process that way. So, and I say this from experience. Like that show at the time had already won the Emmy. Like it exists. It's on Twitch. It had 2 seasons already. And we're pitching the version of it as a episodic, like Amazon show, and it was hilarious that all these people, like not everybody to be fair, there are people who actually read literally everything, the entire 8-page Bible, front to back, prose, right? I'm like, damn, these guys are like these guys have some time and dedication, but there are people who are nothing, and it was hilarious to see that dichotomy of what meetings went better than others because of that. You over here, right? Yeah, you. And I'll go to you last. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was curious about like what your cadence is of developing new projects and how often you're going out to pitch someone. Like, are you going out with multiple projects a year to the same execs, or are you really focusing on one project for a long amount of time?
Well, my cadence is a little different than, say, a TV development pilot writer, right? And this is why I caveated this entire conversation and talk with, you don't need to listen to what I say, okay? Because I dislike pitch marketplaces. Meaning you're putting all this time building all this material. You set up all these pitch meetings. You're going through all this thing. And if you succeed, you get development deal. That's what you get, right? Socio successfully sold into television. And again, for the stories, into MTV. And MTV, as you know, or don't know if you don't, doesn't do scripted shows anymore. And that's why it didn't matter if I wrote the greatest pilot in history or the worst pilot in history, that result would have been the result. And that's incredibly frustrating. I got paid well to write the pilot. I got paid well to do the trailer and the show with the partners. They did compensate me for that. So was it a loss? Was it a win? As a storyteller, as a creator, as someone who loves telling stories and showing people my stories, I consider it a loss, even though I did get compensated well, right? And so from there, my cadence is to get into production. I am looking for ways to get shows into production. And if that means taking less of a budget, it means not going through the traditional development process, soup to nuts, I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that. I'll get less money, that's okay. I want to tell my stories, and that's kind of the reason why in my 2009 to now 13-year web series career, I've done, I want to say 15. You can look at my IMDb, but it's at least 10, right? So, and all those ones are not like self-produced. I funded myself. These are someone compensated for and paid with production. So that's just the way I look at it. Are they super high priced? No, absolutely not. Go ahead.
Talking about a little bit about the economy of current web series. You mentioned your current one that you just kind of finished up with 4 seasons.
Yep.
That's been on Twitch
Yep.
and different things like that. The economics of that, since it's not a traditional studio kind of process, where was the money come from? Where was the revenue generated? How were the seasons financed through that?
So specifically artificial?
Yes.
Okay. Artificial was privately financed by actually XRM, where we are, the first 2 seasons. And then seasons 3 and 4 were financed by Twitch, wholly. Like their content budget paid for it. And the budget, went up 3-4x. Granted, because XRM wasn't paying that much money for it. I just want to give context there. We were not a TV level budget. We got there, and so smaller companies like a Twitch, small, owned by Amazon, they're not Amazon, is what I mean there. So if Twitch was here today, their content team was here today, and you were pitching them a show, their first question going through their head is, why is this not being pitched to Amazon? Why is this pitched to us instead of Amazon? Because Amazon owns us, so why is it for Twitch? And so I have to answer that question, and I was able to do that obviously with a show like Artificial. Not to go into it, but if you were to know about the show, you know exactly what I mean. So that's that. Shows get funded for all sorts of reasons. The show that Ajay had hilariously, we had trouble pronouncing, the Chispa show, was a show on TikTok last year. It was a web series. There are 6 episodes. They're all like a minute episodes each. It's interactive. As in, we shot like multiple branches of the narrative based on how TikTok users responded to the episodes. And so there was like 12 episodes shot, but only like 6 of them aired, right? All 1 minute episodes. Scripted, actors, writers, directors, cinematographers, makeup artists, the whole thing. It was a production. That show was less than $50K, okay? So I was like, sure, let's do it. I mean, I know exactly how to do this. I can do it quick. I can do it cheap. We can shoot it here in the studio. I already had my entire production team ready from Artificial anyway, so it wasn't like a whole lift. So, if those of you who are producers know, firing up a production is a lift. You got to hire a bunch of people. I had a bunch of people already on staff that I could just like, hey, could you support this show for like a week or 2, and we'll just get out of it and go for it. Let's just grab the win. Let's do the show. Let's build a relationship with that brand and that agency. So that's kind of the I guess you go where the river takes you type thing. I don't know if I answered that question very well, but anyway, go ahead. Yeah? Someone else raise? Okay, I guess that's it, and I think we're at time. Ha! 4 o'clock. Hey! Thank you very much, Lila. Thank you.